Welcome to Hawksong Weaving. I'm a disabled weaver, and today I'll be talking about how I prepare for an art market, lessons I've learned along the way, and some life hacks I use for vending with my specific disabilities, along with some really exciting news about a new loom. Like everything about how I make content, take what works and leave the rest. I hope you enjoy. Life takes odd turns, but even tattered and worn yarn still has value. Tired joints and health flares don't have to stop the journey. Welcome to Hawksong Weaving, where all our paths are a little bit warped. My assorted chronic illnesses and disabilities mostly affect my vending via brain fog, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and lowered mobility. With all of this, art markets can be a trial. Thankfully, there are a lot of hacks that I've figured out to keep myself and my vending going, but even with them, vending hurts. My daily life hurts, but when I vend, I know that I'm going to spoon crash hard the next day. When I'm not having brain fog, I create a master list of everything I need during a vending event. I keep mine in my Google Notes and pin it when I get close to an event. This master list includes all of the things I need to bring for both the setup, the product, and my support needs. This list has evolved over time as I figured out what works best for my brain and body. Again, this is what works for me and my specific disabilities. Even if you have the exact same diagnoses, these are chronic illnesses that can affect the body in a ton of different ways. Your lifetime of wear and tear on your body is different than the lifetime of wear and tear on my body. My first bit of advice, pack the car the day before and then make sure to lock it. I use reusable tote bags because those are easier on my body. My shoulders dislocate too easily, so it's easier to let gravity do the work. I have postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and I usually use a cane for balance, so throughout this video you'll see me leaning against the walls, railings, and catching my balance while I wait for my vision to stop graying out. I'm entirely okay. This is my normal. Like I mentioned before, getting there early or being in the first wave of setting up is pretty critical for me. Often at market events, you're asked to move your car to have parking available for shoppers. So the first step is schlepping, getting the items to your tent location. I use a wagon for the tables, my chairs, and especially for the tent weights. I don't want to dislocate a shoulder right before things start. There they are, heave-ho. Depending on the maneuvering room and the dampness of the ground, I'll get either the tables or the tent set up first. It had rained the previous day, but it wasn't too bad, so I mostly wanted to get the tent set up before I worried too much about dampness seeping into the product. Ah, the benefits of working with fiber. Everything dries out eventually. Before I get too far into this, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my work, some free ways to do that are to like, subscribe or follow, and share. This applies to other small artists as well. It's a great way to let the social media algorithms know that this is content worth watching. If you'd like to support me financially, per viewer request, there's a Buy Me a Coffee linked below, along with the link to the Hawksong Weaving Square site where you can purchase the unique woven products featured in this video. I also now have a Patreon that's linked below as well. There are currently 4 actual tiers and 1 very silly tier. These tiers include early access to videos, a weekly post of Life of the HR and OSHA Cats, a Kvetchy diary, being able to vote on projects, a first dibs group for projects featured in videos, and fun snail mail. The actual tiers range from $2, $5, $10, and $15. The 5th tier is absolutely a joke, but just in case, in this economy, I won't say no. For $1,000 a month, you can tell me that I'm not actually disabled, I'm just lazy, and to try whatever yoga, juice cleanse, snake oil nonsense fixed your cousin. I'm absolutely open to other ideas for Patreon, please feel free to comment them. And for now, enjoy some silliness, as it was November the last time I used this tent, and I completely forgot how to set it up. I can get the tent set up myself, but will likely need a 10 to 20 minute break right after. Learning to swallow my internalized ableism and pride has been a repeated lesson. Now if other vendors offer to help me get my tent set up, I accept. But getting there early, taking breaks as needed, setting up is very much a slow and steady wins the race. During my breaks, I'll usually check off what I've done so far, and give myself that dopamine boost for the next wind. Getting it done this way also allows me to usually be ready well before the opening, which gives me time to decompress, acclimate to the space, and mentally gird my autistic brain for a lot of socialization. How do I find vending events? Art markets, that sort of thing. Because I'm based out of Northampton, Massachusetts, I joined Western Mass craft fairs and the queer exchange groups on Facebook. I'm very fortunate that there are a lot of LGBTQIA+ oriented events, as I'm visibly genderqueer, and in a lot of areas the main craft fairs are church-based. That being said, listen when people warn you off of a particular event or host. From my personal experience, I will never vend at an event or with a host that is part of a multi-level marketing scheme again. I was warned, I went anyways, and had an absolutely miserable experience where I did not feel safe on a lot of different levels. The same thing applies if all of the employees of a certain demographic have quit en masse. That just doesn't happen in today's economy unless a lot of things went wrong. And often the hosts will have their company faces on so that the red flags may not be immediately apparent. In many cases, it depends on your comfort levels and support network. Again, everyone's experiences are different. This is just what works for me. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. Take what works and leave the rest. Some other red flags that I've learned to identify are the hosts expecting all the advertising to go on the vendors. It is not your sole responsibility as the vendor to advertise. If your fees aren't going to advertising and you're being pressured, don't vend with them. Your time and energy are too valuable. Another red flag is poor signage and advertising for vendors to apply. There should be a clear contact with a notification of "this is the only contact" or something similar. Scammers are absolutely out there. Do your best to not fall for them. But with there being LGBTQIA+ led events held regularly, for the most part I stick with those. One of my absolute favorites is yet another queer pop-up market. This is the one I chose to film for, and I'm holding their logistics and disability awareness as my gold standard. A few other events have gotten close to that for me, primarily the markets held by the Mill District in North Amherst. I do so love a good map. But do you see what I mean about the gold standard? I've spoken to other art market coordinators about how to best support LGBTQIA+ and disabled vendors, and I've pointed them to yet another queer pop-up market with the strict instructions of do what they're doing. I like to do repeating events because it allows me to build a rapport with the event hosts, which allows for things like explaining that I would really prefer to be in a shaded area, that I may not be able to park further away like the instructions said, that I need to be closer to a restroom as part of my disabilities. Another note about the LGBTQIA-led events is that I've found that the event hosts are much better about respecting boundaries around my disabilities. They'll offer to help, but respect the "no thanks, I've got this," rather than putting themselves as, "Oh no, I clearly shall stomp all over this boundary because doing so makes me feel good about myself," or even worse, the "oh, I shall overshare about my life and situation because clearly this person is so empathetic." Yeah, it's an autistic trauma response, leave me alone. Just because I'm trapped and can't say no as a beginning artist doesn't mean I want to or should be told your child's medical history. I can also ask for things like arriving early because it will take me longer to set up, because as I mentioned before, vending is painful for me. I have the master list set up so that I can do it on my own, but I try to have help when I can. Most of last year's vending I wasn't able to drive myself, as due to the severity of my POTS, there was a risk of my passing out at the wheel. I have now been given the green light by my PCP and cardiologist, but I know that I need to be prepared to find alternate transportation for me and my vending material should I need to. Last year I handled this by putting a request out on Facebook to barter for transportation. I genuinely enjoy doing laundry and meal prep, so I traded a load of laundry, washed, dried, and folded, or I made a bunch of freezable burritos in exchange for rides. This actually continued past vending season in one case, where until I got the green light to drive on my own, I did a friend's laundry, and then every Tuesday they schlepped me around for errands. This probably won't be feasible for everyone, but it beats taking Uber, and that can get pricey really quickly. I had so much fun at this particular event. I've made friends with a lot of the other artists in the area, and it was so good to see them after the long winter. Networking at these events could be worth even more money than you make at them. Like, drum roll please, I met a retired weaver who wants to sell me his floor loom for really cheap. It's a 4-harness Clement loom, solid maple. He's selling it to me for $500, which if you know floor looms, you know is a steal. Floor looms usually cost more than any car I've ever owned. He's reassembling it and will deliver it in a few weeks. I'm so beyond excited. My partners asked where I'm going to put it, as I have a small studio space, but for $500 I will make it fit somewhere. That is a once-in-a-lifetime deal that I am not passing up. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions about something I didn't cover, or polite clarifying questions regarding something I have covered, I'm happy to answer them in the comments. I'm so glad for the odd turn that your path took that brought you here. Thank you for spending time with me at Hawksong Weaving, where we're all a bit warped, and I hope that you have a truly excellent week.